June walked quickly through the university halls, his head down. The sound of whispers followed him. He clutched his tablet closer to his chest and moved faster. "There goes Crow Boy," someone said, just loud enough for June to hear. June did not look up. He was used to this by now. At 26, he was one of the youngest researchers at Seoul National University's Advanced Xenobiology Research Center. He was also the least respected. Outside the building, a large black crow waited on a tree branch. When the bird saw June, it flew down and landed on his shoulder. This was Dak, June's pet crow. "Hello, friend," June said softly, stroking the bird's glossy feathers. "At least you don't think I'm crazy." Dak made a gentle cawing sound and tilted his head, as if he understood every word. Two students walked by, pointing and laughing. June ignored them and continued toward his small office at the edge of campus. Most researchers got nice offices in the main building. June got a converted storage room in the old science wing. Inside his office, June placed Dak on a special perch he had built. The walls were covered with charts, graphs, and pictures of different birds. Most showed crows and ravens. June's desk was messy with papers and recording devices. "Dr. Kim wants to see my progress report tomorrow," June said to Dak, who watched him with bright, attentive eyes. "But how can I explain what I've found when no one wants to listen?" June turned on his computer and pulled up his research files. For 3 years, he had studied animal intelligence, focusing on crows. His work suggested that crows had far greater intelligence than most scientists believed. He even had evidence that they could understand complex patterns that humans missed. But his ideas were too strange for his peers. The scientific community liked neat, safe theories. June's work was neither neat nor safe. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," June called. Professor Hannah entered, her face stern. She was the head of the department and June's research advisor. "June, I've read your latest paper draft," she said, holding up her tablet. "This is not acceptable academic work." June stood up straighter. "Professor, I have data to support my findings. Dak has shown." "Dak is a bird, not a research assistant," Professor Hannah cut him off. "You claim crows can process linguistic patterns that even our computers can't detect, that they might understand signals from space. This is fantasy, not science." "But the recordings—" "Enough." Professor Hannah's voice was sharp. "The university has been patient with you because of your early promise, but if you continue down this path, your funding will be cut. Is that clear?" June looked down at his desk. "Yes, Professor." After she left, June slumped in his chair. Dak flew to his shoulder and made a soft noise near his ear. "They don't understand," June whispered. "But you do, don't you?" He turned on the small TV in his office. The news was showing a report about strange signals received from deep space. Scientists around the world were puzzled by the patterns. "Natural phenomena," one expert on the screen explained. "Random radio bursts from distant stars." But as the broadcast played a recording of the signals, a series of clicks, whistles, and strange tones, Dak suddenly became very still. The crow's eyes fixed on the screen, his body tense. Then, to June's amazement, Dak made a sound, not a normal crow call, but something eerily similar to the space signal. June stared at his pet in wonder. He grabbed a recorder from his desk and pressed record. "Do it again, Dak," he whispered. "Show me what you hear." And as the signal played once more, Dak responded with sounds no Earth crow should be able to make. In that moment, June knew his crazy theories might not be so crazy after all. For the next week, June hardly left his small apartment. His desk was covered with recordings, charts, and notes. Dark circles formed under his eyes from lack of sleep. But he didn't care. What he had discovered was too important. Dak watched from his perch as June played the space signals again and again. Each time, the crow responded with sounds no normal bird could make. "This can't be random," June muttered as he studied the sound patterns on his computer screen. You're not just copying the sounds. You understand something about them. June's apartment was small and messy. Books were stacked on every surface. Food containers piled up in the tiny kitchen. But in the middle of this chaos, a breakthrough was happening. June set up 3 recorders around the room to capture Dak's responses from different angles. He created a testing system, playing different parts of the space signals to see if Dak would respond the same way each time. The results amazed him. Dak was consistent. When signal pattern it played, Dak made response B every time. This was not random mimicry. On the 8th day, someone knocked on June's door. He ignored it at first, too focused on his work. The knocking continued. "June, are you alive in there?" A woman's voice called. June recognized the voice of his neighbor, Minji. She was one of the few people who was always kind to him. He opened the door, blinking in the hallway light. "You look terrible," Minji said. She held up a plastic bag. "I brought food. You haven't left your apartment in days." "I've been busy," June said, stepping back to let her in. Minji looked around at the mess and the elaborate recording setup. "What is all this?" June hesitated. Everyone at the university laughed at his theories. But Minji was different. She wrote stories for a living and had an open mind. "If I show you something, do you promise not to think I'm crazy?" he asked. Minji put the food down. "I already know you're a little crazy. That's why I like you." June smiled for the first time in days. He pointed to Dak, who was watching them both with intelligent eyes. "Dak is special," June explained. "He can understand the space signals everyone's been talking about on the news." Minji looked doubtful, but sat down on the only clear chair. "Show me." June played one of the recordings from space. The strange pattern of clicks and whistles filled the room. Then he nodded to Dak. The crow tilted his head, listening carefully. Then he opened his beak and produced a series of sounds that matched the pattern but changed key elements in a way that seemed deliberate. Minji's eyes widened. "That's not normal." "Watch this," June said. He played a different section of the signal. Dak listened, then responded with a completely different set of sounds. Again, it followed a pattern, but with clear variations. "He's not just copying," June explained, excitement making his words come fast. "He's responding. Like it's a conversation. I think he understands something about these signals that our computers don't." "How is that possible?" Minji asked, staring at the crow with new respect. "I don't know yet, but I've been collecting data." June showed her his charts. "There's a system to his responses, almost like he's translating." "Translating alien signals," Minji said slowly. "You know how that sounds, right?" "Crazy." "I know," June sighed. "That's why I haven't told anyone else." Minji was quiet for a moment, watching as Dak began preening his feathers, acting like a normal crow again. "What if you're right?" she finally asked. "What if these signals actually mean something, and somehow Dak understands them? What then?" June looked at his notes. "Then everything we think we know about animal intelligence is wrong. And everything we think we know about those signals is wrong too." Outside the window, more crows gathered on the power lines, as if waiting for something important to happen. After 3 more days of work, June was ready to share his findings. With Minji's help, he organized his research and made it look professional. He practiced his explanation many times, with Minji asking tough questions to prepare him. "Professor Hana has to listen this time," June said as they walked to the university together. Dak rode on his shoulder, calm and watchful. Minji squeezed his arm. "Just show her the evidence. The data speaks for itself." When they arrived at Professor Hana's office, several other professors and researchers were there too. June's heart beat faster. He hadn't expected an audience. "Ah, June," Professor Hana said coolly. "You said you had important findings to share. These are my colleagues who have agreed to listen." June recognized some of the faces. Dr. Park from linguistics, Dr. Lee from computer science. all serious scientists who had little patience for unusual ideas. "Thank you for coming," Jim said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I've discovered something remarkable about the space signals and how certain Earth animals might understand them." Dr. Park rolled his eyes. "The crow theory again." "Please, just look at my data," Jim said. He connected his tablet to the room's screen and showed them his charts, recordings, and analysis. As you can see, Dak's responses follow specific patterns that mirror ancient human language structures. There are similarities to dead languages like Sumerian and Proto-Indo-European. "This is nonsense," Dr. Lee interrupted. "You're finding patterns where none exist." "But the consistency," Jun tried to explain. "Birds mimic sounds," Professor Hanna said firmly. "That's all this is. Your crow is an excellent mimic, but it's not translating alien signals." "If I could just show you," Jun said, reaching for Dak. "Enough." Professor Hanna stood up. "Jun, this is exactly what I warned you about. You're wasting everyone's time with fantasies." The other professors shook their heads as they left the room. Jun heard someone mutter, "Crow Boy has lost his mind." Minji waited outside, her face full of hope. When she saw Jun's expression, her smile fell. "They didn't believe you," she said. "No," Jun's voice was flat. "They didn't even really listen." That night, Jun sat in his apartment, feeling defeated. The TV was on, showing news about the space signals. Scientists around the world were still puzzled. No one could decode them. The news anchor's voice grew serious. "Breaking news. A new, stronger signal has just been detected. Scientists are calling it a directed broadcast. Here's what it sounds like." The room filled with a complex series of sounds, clicks, whistles, and deep vibrations that made the windows shake slightly. Dak, who had been quiet all day, suddenly flew to the center of the room. His body tensed. Then he opened his beak and produced a long, complex series of sounds that matched the broadcast, but with clear variations. Jun grabbed his tablet and began recording. "Keep going, Dak," he whispered. "Show me what you understand." For 5 minutes, Dak continued his strange speech. When he finished, he looked directly at Jun, as if waiting for a response. Jun's hands shook as he ran the recording through his analysis program. The pattern was clear, more structured than ever before. It wasn't random. It had syntax, grammar, meaning. "It's a language," he whispered in awe. "And you're not just copying it. You're answering it." He called Minji immediately. "Come over. Now, bring your recorder too." "What happened?" she asked. "I think I just heard my crow speak in a dead language," Jun said. "But not a human one. Something much, much older." As he said this, Jun looked out his window. On every power line, roof, and tree branch he could see, crows were gathering. Hundreds of them, all facing the sky. Jun and Minji worked through the night, recording Dak's responses and analyzing them. By morning, they had created a basic translation system. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. "I think some of these sounds mean danger," Jun said, pointing to his screen. "Doc keeps making these same patterns when specific parts of the signal play." Minji looked worried. "If he's warning about danger, what kind of danger?" Before Jun could answer, his phone, TV, and computer all went dead at the same time. The lights flickered and went out. "Power outage?" Minji asked. Jun shook his head. "My phone is battery-powered." They rushed to the window. Outside, cars had stopped in the middle of the street. People were looking at their dead phones in confusion. Then someone pointed up at the sky. "Look," Minji whispered. Above the city, dark shapes moved through the clouds. Huge ships, bigger than any aircraft Jun had ever seen, hovered silently. They were smooth and black, shaped like arrowheads. "This can't be happening," Jun said. Dak flew to the window and made urgent sounds, the same warning pattern they had been studying all night. Suddenly, all the electronic devices came back to life, but they now showed the same image. a strange creature with gray skin, large black eyes, and no visible mouth. When it spoke, the sound came from every speaker, in every home, all over the world. "People of Earth," it said in a flat, mechanical voice, "we are the Eon. Your planet is now under our control. Resistance is useless and will result in punishment." June and Minji looked at each other in horror. The message continued. "Humans are an inferior species. You will serve us as workers and provide biological resources. Those who cooperate will be treated fairly. Those who resist will be removed." Dak began making agitated sounds, his wings flapping desperately. June grabbed his tablet, which was working again, and recorded the crow's response. "He's reacting to their message," June said, "like he understands exactly what they're saying." On the screen, the alien continued. "We have disabled your weapons systems and communication networks. Your leaders have 24 hours to surrender formally. After that, we will begin resource collection." The broadcast ended, leaving stunned silence across the city. Then came the screams, the car horns, the sounds of panic. "We should get somewhere safe," Minji said, looking out at the chaos in the streets. "Wait," Jun said. He was running Dak's latest sounds through his translation program. "Dak is trying to tell us something important." The program displayed basic word matches. Danger. Bold enemy. No weakness. Old enemy. Minji read over his shoulder. "What does that mean?" June looked at Dak with new understanding. "I think it means the Eon have been here before. And somehow, Dak's species knows them." Outside, people ran in panic as smaller ships detached from the motherships and descended toward the city. Police sirens wailed in the distance. "We need to go to the university," Jum decided. "My research is there. We need all of it now." "The university?" Everyone laughed at your research. Minji reminded him. "They won't laugh now," Jun said grimly. They packed quickly. Jun's tablet, their notes, and some food and water. As they prepared to leave, Dak flew to Jun's shoulder and made a soft sound near his ear. For a moment, Jun froze. The sound was different. Not the alien language, but something that sounded almost like Korean words, badly formed but recognizable. "Danger. Help. I help." Minji saw Jun's shocked face. "What's wrong?" "I think," Jun said slowly, "Dak just tried to speak our language." Outside, the alien ships drew closer, casting long shadows over the frightened city. Getting to the university was not easy. The streets were full of scared people running in all directions. Twice, Jun and Minji had to hide as small alien ships flew low over the city, scanning with blue lights. "They're looking for something," Minji whispered during one close call. "Or someone," Jun said, watching Dak, who seemed unusually alert. They reached the science building, which was mostly empty. A few students and staff had gathered in the main hall, watching news reports on their phones. The alien ships were all over the world. Every major city was surrounded. Jun led Minji to his small office. He grabbed his research notes, external drives, and special recording equipment. Dak flew around the room in circles, making soft clicking sounds. "We need somewhere quiet to work," Jun said. "I need to understand what Dak is trying to tell us." They found an empty lab in the basement. Jun set up his equipment and placed Dak on a table. "Now, friend," Jun said gently to the crow, "tell us what you know about the Yun." Dak looked at him with knowing eyes. Then the crow began to make a series of complex sounds, clicks, whistles, and strange vibrations that Jun recorded carefully. For the next hour, Jun and Minji worked to translate Dak's communication. They used Jun's program and added new words and sounds as they figured them out. Slowly, an amazing story began to take shape. "This can't be right," Minji said, reading their rough translation. "It says the Yun came to Earth thousands of years ago. And look at this part," Jun pointed to the screen. "Dak's ancestors weren't originally from Earth. They were brought here by the Eon as servants. The translation was still rough, but the key ideas were clear. Crows were distant relatives of a species the Eon had enslaved long ago. These bird-like creatures had been smart enough to rebel and escape to Earth. They had hidden among Earth's native birds, changing over time to look like crows. But they kept their intelligence and their memory of their former masters. They'd been waiting, Jun said in wonder. All this time, Earth's crows have carried the memory of the Eon, waiting for the day they would return. Minji looked at Dak with new respect. But why can Dak speak their language when other crows can't? Jun thought about this. Maybe they all can, but Dak is the only one who chose to speak to a human. Because I saved him when he was injured and treated him as a friend, not just an animal. Dak made a soft cawing sound, as if agreeing. But why are the Eon here now? Minji asked. After all this time, Jun translated more of Dak's sounds. Resources. Earth has something they need, and they detected our technology reaching a certain level. Outside, they heard the sounds of helicopters and then explosions. The human military was fighting back, but from what they could tell on the news, it wasn't going well. The Eon ships were too advanced. Dak, Jun said urgently. Do the Eon have any weaknesses? How can we fight them? The crow made more sounds. This time, the translation was clear. Sound. Death song. Not forget. Death song. Minji repeated. What does that mean? Before Jun could answer, the lab door burst open. Professor Hannah stood there, looking tired and scared. Jun, what are you doing here? She asked. Then she noticed the equipment and the translations on the screen. What is all this? The thing I tried to tell you about, Jun said. My crazy theory that wasn't so crazy after all. Professor Hannah came closer, looking at their work with wide eyes. Are you saying your crow knows something about these aliens? Not just something, Jun replied. He knows how to defeat them. Professor Hannah listened in amazement as Jun explained everything they had learned. When he finished, she took out her phone. I need to call someone, she said. Someone who might actually be able to use this information. She stepped into the hallway to make her call. Jun and Minji continued working with Dak, trying to understand more about the death song he had mentioned. I think it's some kind of sound weapon, Jun said. Something that hurts the Eon. Minji nodded. But how do we create it? And how do we use it against their ships? 20 minutes later, Professor Hannah returned with a young man Jun recognized. It was Ta, a former classmate who now worked for the government. Jun, Ta said with a nod. Professor Hannah tells me your pet crow can help us fight the aliens. I know how it sounds, Jun said. But it's true. Tae's face was serious. At this point, we'll try anything. Our weapons are useless against their shields. The military is being crushed all over the world. Show him, Minji urged. Jun played recordings of Dak's translations and explained what they had learned about the crow's history with the Eon. Tad listened carefully, taking notes. When Jun mentioned the death song, Ta looked up sharply. A sound that can hurt them. Are you sure? That's what Dak is trying to tell us, Jun said. But we don't know exactly what kind of sound or how to use it. Ta made a quick call. 10 minutes later, a military truck pulled up outside the building. Soldiers helped them load Jun's equipment, and soon they were driving through the chaotic city. Where are we going? Minji asked. Underground Command Center, Tai explained. One of the few places the Eon haven't found yet. The command center was deep beneath a government building. Soldiers guarded every entrance. Inside, military officers and scientists worked at computers, monitoring the alien invasion. Colonel Song, a stern-looking woman in uniform, met them at the door. This better be worth it, she said to Ta. We're losing ground by the hour. It is, Mom, Ta assured her. Jun, show her. Jun set up his equipment while Dak perched on his shoulder, watching everything with intelligent eyes. The crow seemed to understand the importance of what was happening. "Now, Dak," Jun said, "show them what you can do." On a nearby screen, they displayed a live feed of Eon ships moving into position above the city. As soon as Dak saw this, he began making the complex sounds Jun had come to recognize as the Eon language. Colonel Song's eyes widened. "Is that bird speaking their language?" "Yes," Jun said, "and he understands it too." To prove it, they played recordings of the Eon broadcasts. Dak listened carefully, then responded with sounds that Jun's program translated roughly as, "Moving troops south. Attack at sunset." 2 hours later, the Eon attacked exactly where and when Dak had predicted. "This is incredible," Colonel Song said. "The bird is giving us their battle plans." "How is this possible?" Jun explained about the ancient connection between crows and the Eon. "But there's more," he added. "Dak says there's a way to fight back. Something called a death song." Colonel Song leaned forward. "What exactly is this death song?" "We're still working on that," Jun admitted. "But I think it's a specific sound frequency that disrupts their communication, or maybe even hurts them physically." "We have sound engineers here," Colonel Song said. "They can help you figure it out." As they were speaking, more reports came in of cities falling under gun control. Time was running out. "One more thing," Jun said. "I think we need more crows." Colonel Song looked confused. "More crows? Why?" "Because Dak isn't the only one who knows the Eon language," Jun explained. "I think all crows do. And if we can get them to help us." For the first time since the invasion began, a hint of hope appeared in Colonel Song's eyes. "Get this man whatever he needs," she ordered. "And find me some crows. As many as you can." The underground command center buzzed with new energy. In one corner, sound engineers worked with Jun to analyze Dak's death song patterns. In another area, military officers studied maps showing ship positions around the world. Most surprising was the large room where dozens of crows now perched on specially built stands. Soldiers had brought them in from parks and forests all over the city. Minji worked with them, playing recordings of Dak's sounds and noting how the wild crows responded. "It's amazing," she told Jun during a break. "They all understand. Some are even better at making the sounds than Dak." Jun nodded. "They've carried this knowledge for thousands of years, passing it down through generations, just waiting for the Eon to return." After 3 days of hard work, they had a breakthrough. The sound engineers identified specific frequency patterns in Dak's death song that could disrupt the Eon's communication systems. "It's like their brains are connected somehow," the lead engineer explained to Colonel Song. "These frequencies seem to cause pain or confusion in their collective mind." Colonel Song turned to Jun. "Can we weaponize this?" "I think so," Jun said. "We need to build devices that can produce these exact sound patterns at high volume." "How close do we need to be to their ships?" Colonel Song asked. Jun looked at Dak, who was watching them intently. "Dak says the closer, the better. But even from a distance, it should weaken them." Teams of engineers began building sonic weapons based on Dak's patterns. They created small devices that could be carried by soldiers and larger ones to mount on vehicles. Each weapon played the special frequencies that the crows had taught them. As they worked, Professor Hannah approached Jun. Her face showed a mix of shame and respect. "I was wrong about you," she said quietly. "All those times I dismissed your research. I'm sorry." "It's okay," Jun replied. "I understand why it seemed crazy." "No," Professor Hannah shook her head. "A good scientist should be open to new ideas, even unusual ones. I failed at that." Meanwhile, the Eon tightened their control over the city above them. Their ships hovered over major buildings. Strange alien devices were placed on street corners, monitoring human movement. People were being rounded up for work assignments in Eon facilities. That night, Jun noticed something odd. Wild crows were flying in and out of small air vents in the underground base. No one had brought these birds in. "They're coming on their own," Minji said in wonder. "And look, They're bringing things. The crows dropped small metal objects, pieces of alien technology they had stolen from ships and devices. The military technicians studied these parts eagerly. "This is incredible," one technician said. "These birds are giving us intelligence we couldn't get any other way." June watched as Dak flew to join the wild crows, making soft sounds that seemed like instructions. The other crows listened, then flew back out through the vents. "What's happening?" Colonel Song asked. "I think," June said slowly, "Dak is organizing them. The crows are creating a network, spreading information, gathering intelligence." "A crow spy network?" Colonel Song sounded skeptical. "Exactly," June nodded. "The Eon don't see crows as a threat. They don't even seem to remember that their ancient servants escaped to Earth. The crows can go anywhere, see everything." Reports came in from other cities. Wild crows were behaving strangely all over the world, gathering in large groups, watching the alien ships. Some people reported hearing strange sounds from the birds, almost like singing. "It's spreading," Jun said. "The crows are preparing. They've waited thousands of years for this moment." Colonel Song looked at the sonic weapons being loaded onto trucks. "So have we figured out the plan?" "Yes," Jun said firmly. "We'll use the crows to gather intelligence and distract the Yun, then strike with the sonic weapons when they're most vulnerable." "And when will that be?" Colonel Song asked. June looked at Dak, who made a soft sound that the translation program interpreted as a single word. "Soon." The laboratory hummed with an electric tension. Jaehwan's hands trembled as he adjusted the delicate recording equipment around Cipher. The crow-like creature sat motionless, its feathers glinting with an unnatural metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors when nobody was looking directly at it. Yuna leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the complex array of screens and sensors. "Something's different," she whispered. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, capturing every microscopic change in the room's environment. Cipher suddenly tilted its head. The movement was sharp, precise, nothing like a normal bird. Its eyes, previously a deep obsidian black, now swirled with intricate patterns that looked like living maps of unknown galaxies. "The frequency," Jaehwan muttered. "It's changing." A low sound began to fill the room. It wasn't a sound most people could hear with their ears. It was more like a vibration that touched the edges of human perception, a linguistic ripple that seemed to bend the very air around them. The first warning came from the computer. Alarms blared as the sensors detected an impossible energy signature. The walls of the research station seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting in a rhythm that matched Cipher's strange emission. "We're recording everything," Yuna said, her voice tight with excitement and fear. "This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." Cipher's communication was unlike anything humans had ever encountered. It wasn't just a language. It was a weapon, a shield, and a message all at once. The creature was translating the collective knowledge of civilizations that had been destroyed, teaching humans how to survive. Jaehwan watched as holographic projections began to materialize around Cipher. They were complex diagrams, blueprints of defensive technologies, communication protocols, and survival strategies. Each projection looked like a living, breathing document that shifted and changed as Cipher continued its strange song. "It's showing us how to fight," Yuna breathed. "Not just with weapons, but with understanding." The trans-dimensional predators that had wiped out countless civilizations relied on a fundamental weakness. They couldn't comprehend true adaptability. Humans, with their chaotic thinking and ability to learn quickly, were an anomaly. And now Cipher was giving them the ultimate weapon, knowledge. Suddenly, the room went dark. But it wasn't a normal darkness. It was a darkness filled with whispers, with memories of lost civilizations. Cipher's feathers began to glow, casting intricate shadows that told stories of planets destroyed, of species erased, of hope surviving against impossible odds. Jaehwan realized they were witnessing something miraculous. Cipher wasn't just a messenger. It was a living archive, a weapon of preservation and protection. The creature was teaching humans how to become the guardians of knowledge in a universe that constantly threatened to forget. "We need to prepare," J1 said, his voice steady. "We need to show the world what we've discovered." Yuna nodded. The first stage of humanity's defense was about to begin, and it would start with understanding a language that no human had ever heard before, a language of survival, of resistance, of hope. Cipher continued its strange song, each note a potential shield against the darkness that waited beyond the stars. The world looked different now. Humanity stood at the edge of something incredible, a new understanding of its place in the universe. Jaehoon watched as Cipher began to change. The creature that had been their guide, their teacher, was preparing to leave. Its feathers, once sharp and metallic, now looked soft and transparent. Golden light seemed to flow through its body, like liquid memory. "It's time," Yuna whispered, her hand touching the edge of the containment field. The research station had become something more than a laboratory. It was now a beacon of hope, a place where humanity had learned its most important lesson. Survival is not about fighting, but about understanding. Cipher moved slowly. Each movement created ripples of light that looked like living language. The computer systems around them began to download massive amounts of information, technologies, communication protocols, and survival strategies from civilizations long gone. Outside the station's windows, the first human defense fleet was being prepared. Ships that looked nothing like the old military designs. These were vessels built with the knowledge Cipher had shared, organic technology that could adapt, communicate, and protect. "We're not just survivors anymore," Jaehoon said to Yuna. "We're guardians." The transformation happened quickly. One moment, Cipher was a creature of flesh and strange metallic feathers. The next, it was becoming pure information. Streams of data flowed from its body, filling every computer system, every communication network on the station. Humanity had been given a gift, not just knowledge, but a responsibility. The transdimensional predators had destroyed countless civilizations because those civilizations never understood the true nature of communication. They saw conflict as something to be fought with weapons. Humans were different. They could listen. They could adapt. Cipher's final message began to play on screens across the research station. It wasn't just words. It was a living document, part history, part instruction, part warning. "We are not alone," the message began, "but we are unique." The screen showed images of destroyed worlds, of civilizations that had fallen. But between those images were moments of hope, of species that had found ways to survive, to communicate, to understand. Yuna's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but of understanding. Humanity was being chosen for something important, not as conquerors, not as heroes, but as listeners, as preservers of knowledge. Cipher was almost gone now. Just a shimmer of light, a last wave of information passing through the station's systems. Jaehoon reached out, not to touch, but to acknowledge. "Thank you," he said simply. The transformation completed. Cipher was no longer a creature. It was everywhere and nowhere. A living archive spread across human technology. The first line of defense against the darkness between stars. Outside, the first human ships prepared to launch. They looked alive, their hulls shifting, adapting, ready to communicate before they would ever consider fighting. Humanity had changed, and the universe would never be the same again. On the main screen, one last message flickered. "*You are not alone. You are the memory. You are the message*.